Hello friends, welcome to Tarun IAS. Today we will be discussing current affairs of 26th of November 2022. I apologize for not being able to record the current affairs for the past 1 week as I had some unseen circumstances. Therefore, I apologize and let's continue with the 26th November 2022 current affairs. So, the first topic of the day is the National Suicide Prevention Strategy. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has come up with the National Suicide Prevention Strategy. We know that in the age of urbanization and fast growing social media and OTT platforms, there have been instances where people have suffered mental illnesses, and the 2 years of lockdown had put a lot of pressure on the mental health of the citizens. And even according to the WHO, that is World Health Organization, India has, it has 1 in 7 person committing suicide for various reasons, and mostly the reasons are anxiety and depressions. Anxiety and depressions are their result of various factors. However, the most crucial or the prevalent factors that have been contributing to the rising suicide in India is the lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown, and the influence of social media. All right. So therefore, in order to curb the rising rate of the suicide, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has prepared this strategy. So I have already discussed the context with you that the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has announced this National Suicide Prevention Strategy. If we consider the Mental Health Act of 2017, which had said that suicide is no more a criminal act. Earlier, committing a suicide was counted as a criminal act, and there it was punishable. However, the Mental Health Act of 2017, it abolished this provision of considering the suicide as a criminal act, because suicide is a result of psychological disorders, mainly the anxiety and depression, etc. And therefore, we cannot treat suicide as a criminal act. Rather, it is a mental health issue. Therefore, it has to be dealt in this way. This is the first of its kind strategy in country, and it seeks to have a time-bound action plan and a multi-sectoral collaboration to achieve the reduction rate in suicide mortality by 10% by 2030, which is also the year by which the 193 member countries of United Nations are supposed to achieve. They are supposed to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal, and good health and well-being is one of the Sustainable Development Goal, that is SDG 3. Right. So if you look at the SDG 3, then mental health is one of the goals that is needed to be achieved. This is in line with the World Health Organization Southeast Asia Region Strategy for Suicide. We have prepared this strategy in accordance with the strategy that has already been released for the Southeast Asian nation by WHO. The strategy basically, it broadly seeks to establish an effective surveillance mechanism for within the next 3 years. That means a surveillance mechanism need to be adopted. For example, if you remember, then in the past few years there have been cases for completing a challenge, and the ultimate and the final challenge was to commit the suicide, and they were known as the blue whale challenge, the momos challenge, and etc etc. And many people, because of this enthusiasm under the pressure of the performing best in the online gaming, etc., they had committed the suicide. So there would be a surveillance mechanism that would be established within the next 3 years, so as to oversee the prevention of the suicide. It is going to establish a psychiatric outpatient department, that is OPD. Generally, OPD is for the normal diseases, etc., etc. And for mental health cases, we go specifically to a psychiatrist. And in India, there is no, depression is considered as it's considered as a taboo. There is no social acceptance to the problem of depression and anxiety, etc. They are not considered even as diseases, as mental health issue by the people. So there is a problem of awareness that needs to be generated amongst the citizenry, so as to see depression and anxiety and suicide as a mental health issue and not as a criminal act. So therefore a psychiatric OPD is going to be established to prevent the suicide through a district mental health program in all the districts within the 5 years. There will be integrated mental well-being curriculum in all the educational institution, because if we consider the education, that it lays the foundation of many things, and education is that one factor which helps achieve multi-dimensional achievement, especially when we consider the national goals and the sustainable development goals. Then education curriculum is going to help generate awareness amongst the children from during their formative years, so that they will be well aware of themselves. There will be social awareness, there will be self awareness. Thus a curriculum is going to be established in all the educational institution within the 8 years. So this is the provisions of the strategy that we are discussing here. So we develop guidelines for responsible media reporting of suicide and restrict access to the means of suicide. We are going to develop a community resilience and societal support for the suicide prevention. So Mental Health Care Act of 2017, it aimed to provide mental health care services to the person with the mental illness. Application by the name Kiran by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, it had launched a 24/7 toll-free helpline Kiran in order to provide support to the people who faces anxiety, stress, depression and suicidal thoughts and other mental health concerns. Manodarpan is another initiative of the Ministry of Education under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, so as to provide a psychological support, social psychological support to the students, family members and teachers for their mental health and well-being during the times of COVID-19. The next news of the day is about cess and surcharge. Recently, what has happened that states have urged the center to reduce the revenue generation by cess and surcharge. This practice basically reduces their divisible pool in revenue sharing. We know that the Finance Commission, which is established under the Article 280 of the Constitution of India, provides for the establishment of the finance. This Article 280 provides for the establishment of the Finance Commission. Now, what happens? This Finance Commission, it has the responsibility of dividing the revenue between the center and the states. However, the center relies on the practices of levying cess and surcharges on taxes, so as to effectively increase their revenue share. However, the practice of cess and surcharge reduces their divisible pool, because if the revenue is going to be generated by cess and surcharge, then the revenue which is to be divided, that means the divisible pool, it will be decreased for the states. So therefore the states have urged to reduce the to curb this practice of levying tax on tax. Now let us discuss what the cess and surcharge is. Basically, the cess is imposed by the central government as a tax on a tax which is levied by the government for a specific purpose. So here we will discuss what cess and surcharge is. We will also talk about the difference between the two. So when we speak of the cess, basically it is of a specific nature. It is of a specific nature, that means it is when it is levied on a tax, it is going to be utilized for the purpose for which it is levied. For example, if we say we have clean energy tax, we have Swachh Bharat tax, we have road tax. Now this road cess was levied so as to this road cess was levied so as to what? So as to reduce the road accident for the road road development fund, right? Road development and this compensation fund, which was established under the motor vehicle act. So road cess, clean energy cess and Swachh Bharat cess, they are all levied for the specific purpose, and they're levied till the government gets the enough money for that purpose, right? It is basically imposed additionally on the tax. Now let us discuss what surcharge is. Surcharge is also similar to cess, but the only difference is it can be levied for any purpose. It can be utilized for any purpose. There is no specific mention for which purpose it is going to be levied or it is going to be utilized. If we consider, then 35% of all the cess and surcharges, comes directly from the surcharge. It contributes around 35% of all the cess and surcharges that are levied. So the usual taxes goes to the Consolidated Fund of India, and it can be spent for any purpose. This is, we are talking about the surcharge, right? The surcharge is also goes to the Consolidated Fund of India. It can also be spent for any purpose. The cess is also goes to the Consolidated Fund of India, but it can be spent only for the specific purpose for which it was levied. Now, the next article of the day is about the Special Marriage Act. Now, why this was in news? There have been a petition filed in the Supreme Court for allowing the marriages of homosexual couples under the Special Marriage Act of 1954. Now we will see what the Special Marriage Act is and what are the important or key provision with respect to the Special Marriage Act. So context I have already discussed that because homosexual couples cannot get married under their personal laws, so they are seeking marriage. That means the first issue is about the legality of the homosexual marriages, legality of homosexual marriages in India. And the second issue is that if they become legal, then under which provision they are going to be, under which law they will be permitted, whether there will be a separate law for them or their marriages will be recognized under the Special Marriage Act, right? So the petition has been filed that their should be recognized under the Special Marriage Act. Now, what is the Special Marriage Act? Now, what happens that India is a diverse country, and there are people residing in India belonging to different faith, and all different faith they have their own personal laws. They have their own jurisprudence that deals with their personal issues such as marriage, divorce, adoption, guardianship, etc., inheritance, etc., etc. So the personal laws deals with all these provisions, and we have, for example, Hindu Marriages Act. Hindu code basically is there, which deals with Hindu Guardianship Act, Hindu Inheritance Act, Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, and then we have Muslim Marriage Act of 1954. Basically, the Muslim Marriage Act does not say much. It only recognizes that Shariat is going to be the it is going to be, I mean, their personal law is going to be guided by as per the Sharia. This is what it says. And then we have the Special Marriage Act 1954. So, for example, if there are two people belonging to different caste or different faith specifically, they want to get married and they do not want to get married under their personal laws, so their marriage becomes legal under the Special Marriage Act. So, if a couple, and this act also ensures the protection of the couple by the judiciary. So basically this is an act of the Parliament of India with provision for the civil marriages of people of India and all Indian nationals in foreign countries. This is not only applicable to the people residing in India, but also people who do not reside in India but they are Indian citizens, irrespective of their religion or faith. They can get married. So the marriages which are solemnized under this act, they are no longer governed by the personal law of the people. As per the section 5 of the act, they have to give a notice to the marriage officer 30 days prior to the marriage to see if anyone objects to their marriage or not. If there is no objection, then they can get married after the 30-day notice period. If we see homosexuality in India, then it has homosexuals in India or the LGBTQ plus community. They have had a long fight to recognize their existence in Indian diversity. So in Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India, the apex court, that is the Supreme Court, it had decriminalized the homosexuality in India. That means the section 377 of IPC, that is Indian Penal Code, criminalized the sexual relationship which are against the order of nature. That means homosexuality under this section was a criminal act. However, in this judgment of the Supreme Court, in Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India judgment, the Supreme Court decriminalized the homosexuality, right? However, a person is governed by various laws throughout their life, especially marriages, inheritance, the guardianship, the adoption, etc. Just criminalizing the homosexuality homosexual act does not mean that the LGBTQ plus community is completely or fully assimilated or accepted by the Indian society. There is still a long way to go where we have to recognize their existence in various dimensions that governs the personal life and public life of a human being. That means all the constitutional provisions which are applicable on the citizen, they have to be applicable on homosexual or on LGBTQ plus community, so that they have a dignified life in India. The next news of the day is about the Constitution Day. We know that 26th November India celebrates. There is of course no pompous celebration as we celebrate our Independence Day or our Republic Day. However, the National Constitution Day, which is also known as the National Law Day, 26th of November. What is the significance of 26th of November? It was on this date that our constitution was signed, right, and it came into force 26th of January 1950. So formally it was adopted, and it came into force on 26th of January 1950. The Constitution of India, it was first proposed by M.N. Roy in 1934, and various committees were formed so as to draft the various provisions of the citizens, various provisions governing the citizens. Drafting committee was one of the most important major committees, under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, that had drafted the constitution. Indian constitution is the lengthiest written constitution, and it has borrowed features from several then existing constitution. So let's see what the preamble of the constitution say. The preamble of the constitution say that we, the people of India, we are sovereign, we are socialist, we are secular, and we are democratic republic. So now let us discuss the meaning of each of these words. The first, sovereign. The meaning of the sovereign is that the Indian state. So there are two things: India as a nation and India as a state. In sociology, we study the difference between the two when we say state and when we say nation. Nation is basically, it is more of a feeling, it is more of a sentimental, it has a sentimental origin. When we say state, state has a political origin. So when we say sovereignty, it applies on the state, and people and nation resides within the state. So that's where the concept of sovereignty comes, that no foreign authority has superiority or control over the Indian state. Right, so India is sovereign. Socialist means that we have adopted a model, democratic socialism. That means India is not only a democracy, but the state is going to take care of the welfare of the people. That's what the socialist means. And when we say secular, that means India as a state does not recognizes any religion. So there is no state religion. So there are states which are theological states, like they have their own religion. They are guided by the religious authority, by a religious leader, etc. For example, we have Iran, right? So Iran is a theocratic state. So religion is there are some states also which does recognize the religion, but they are democratic in nature. They are not theocratic in nature. For example, we have Bangladesh. So it does recognizes Islam as the religion, state religion, but it's a democratic state. It's not a theocratic state. For example, we have Bhutan. Bhutan recognizes Buddhism as its state religion, but it's not a theocratic state, right? So now we have the other words that are written in the preamble is justice. Justice, what does the justice mean? The absence of injustice. So we have justice, which is going to be the social, economic, and political. That justice means the equal opportunity to everyone. Every person in the eye of law is same, and all persons who are equally situated are equally recognized by the law or by the Constitution of India. So their rights are equally protected, and they are protected by the law. So justice implies that there is no differentiation, there is no discrimination, there is no inequality, etc., etc. So that's where justice means. When we say liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, so liberty does not only implies that you are free to do anything. It also means that not only you are free to exercise your right, but you also are free to have your own self development. So when we say liberty, there will be two aspects that we would be dealing with. The first one is the free nature. However, all these rights that are enshrined in the Constitution of India for the citizens of India, they have a limiting nature. They are not absolute, right? So there is no absolutism when it comes to exercising your fundamental right. So liberty also means that not only it allows for the self development, but it also gives you the opportunity to exercise your right, as long as you do not infringe fundamental right or other right of other citizens, right? So there is a limitation. And what is that limitation? The other citizen. The rights of the other citizens are limitations on access, on expression of your rights. Right? Equality, equality of status, that every individual is equally situated and they are regarded as equal. There will be equality of opportunity, that is under Article 16. Under Article 16 of Constitution of India, we have equal opportunity, that every person in India are given equal chance to have political, social, and economic empowerment. The the other word is the fraternity. Fraternity implies brotherhood, sisterhood, or it means that there shall be harmony between the people or between the members of different community. So it talks about the harmony between harmony amongst the citizen, harmony between the two communities. So there shall be no narrow-mindedness in the citizens of India when it comes to have exercising your expression, when it comes to developing the social bond, when it comes to having a harmonious relationship amongst the people, etc., etc. So the last line of their preamble says that in our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby we adopt, we enact, and we give to ourselves to the Constitution of India. So that means these lines implies that India is a democratic nation. India is a democratic nation because we are giving ourselves this constitution. We have designed this constitution for ourselves, and we are giving it to ourselves, right? So this is what this means. Now let us look at some of the borrowed features which our drafting committee took from different constitutions that existed that time, because when India got its independence after this long drawn struggle for independence in 1947, then there were already countries who had their constitution designed. So we had to basically sort of look for the good aspects in their constitution and adopt them, not as it is, but in accordance with the socio-economic dynamics that existed in our country and that would exist in our country. So basically, our constitution is defined as a living document. It does adopt itself to the requirements of the society time to time. It does have the provision that allows it to amend itself according to the exigencies of the time, etc., etc. So when we say the British Constitution, then from the British Constitution, we have adopted, of course, the parliamentary rule that there will be a parliament. We have the rule of law. So here in from Lakshmikant, you can read the A.V. Dicey concept of law. That what basically the law means. What is the definition of the law as per the Article 13 of the Indian Constitution? Then the law making procedure, because in India we have the procedure established by the law. Of course, under the this Menka versus Union of India judgment, Supreme Court did describe due process of law. So due process of law is an American expression and procedure established by law is a British expression. So we have procedure established by law from British Constitution. We have single citizenship, unlike American citizenship, where a citizen is not only the citizen of the country but also the citizen of the state in which he or she resides. So we have a single citizenship. We have institution of the speaker. We have the doctrine of pleasure of tenure of the civil servants, etc. Then from American Constitution, we have adopted the judicial system, which is the independent judiciary. Even the Article 50 of the DPSP says that The state shall endeavor to separate the judiciary from the executive. We have the fundamental rights which we have adopted from the American Constitution, that is the Bill of Rights. We have from the Canadian Constitution. Now, if you look at the provision of the Indian Constitution, then we do have the centralizing tendencies. States are definitely, they are autonomous unit, but they are not completely free. So, following the Canadian model, we have centralization tendencies. The center is more powerful when we look at the balance of power between the center and the states. The residuary power are given to the parliament, and the center state relation, that how they will be established, etc., etc. We have taken from Canadian constitution. Then from the Irish constitution we have taken the directive principles of state policies, which are of course described as the instrument of policy making under the Government of India Act of 1935. The election of the president we have taken from the Irish constitution. From the Australian constitution we have taken the concurrent list, the freedom of trade and service within the country, and from the Weimar constitution, that is from the constitution of Germany, we have taken the emergency provisions. The 5-year plans and the fundamental duties have been taken from the Soviet constitution, the then USSR, and the basic structure or the basic framework, not the structure, because that way you would be confusing it with the Keshan and the Bharti judgment. So the basic body of the constitution, let's say, it has been borrowed from the Government of India Act of 1935, the powers of the federal judiciary, etc., etc. And from the South African constitution we have taken this provision of amendment of the constitution. All right, now let's look at the next news of the day. The next news of the day is about curbing the fake reviews. Now, why these reviews matter? So, for example, when we go to online shopping sites, or when we go to any OTT platform to watch any series, or etc., etc., generally we try to, the first thing we do is to look at the reviews. So when we buy a product online, on online shopping platforms, etc., we look at the reviews of the product, that how many people have bought this product, and how many people say that this is a good product or a bad product according to their use, according to the user experience, etc. So basically the ministry, I mean the Department of the Consumer Affair, it has unveiled a new strategy, the new standards, which are ISO 19000 2022 on online consumer review. Now this is a very important aspect, because in the age of social media, in the age of everything that is getting available online, so what is more important is the reviews. So we cannot, so according to the Department of Consumer Affairs, in order to protect the interest of the consumer, they have brought these new standards. Basically, it is prepared by the Bureau of Indian Standard, which is again a statutory body, to protect the consumer interest from the fake and deceptive reviews on the e-commerce platform. It will be applicable to every online platform which publishes consumer reviews. The guiding principles of the strategy or the standard would be the integrity, the accuracy, the privacy, security, transparency, accessibility, and the responsiveness. The standard will initially be voluntary for the compliance. The first thing is that these are the voluntary standard. They may be made compulsory afterwards, but right now they are voluntary for the compliance by all the e-commerce platforms. Bureau of Indian Standard have developed a conformity assessment scheme for all the standards to assess the compliance, that how much and I mean how many e-commerce platforms and to what extent they are going to comply with the standards. The responsibility, what will be the responsibilities? Basically the standard, they prescribe the specific responsibilities for the review author and the review administrator. For review author, these include confirming the acceptance of the terms and conditions, providing the contact information, etc. And for the review administrator, these include the safeguarding the personal information and the training of the staff. The standards would also provide for the method of the verification of the review author through the email address, identification by the telephone call or SMS, confirming the registration by clicking on a link, using the CAPTCHA system to check the traceability and genuineness of the review author. And with respect to moderation, the standard, they provide for the automated and manual moderation. They provide checks for analyzing the review content. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching Tarun IAS. And if you want to download the PDF, you can go to our Telegram channel. The link will be given in the description below. Have a nice day.